All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's call this meeting to order. It's Friday. We are at 9:02. Sorry for the delay. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask if we have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
1, 2. We have a quorum, and I don't know, do we have, Jackson and Kevin will call in at some point because he had a conflict meeting, and I know Jackson will not be with us today because he is traveling. Okay, so the first item up for discussion this morning, and all of our workshop formats, we will take resident comments. So please raise your hand if you have comments. Someone back there. Or am I echoing?
You're echoing because you're going through the thing, so you got to mute on yours because you're through the thing.
There we go. Now I'm muted. Okay, better. So we won't echo anymore.
You don't want surround sound?
Yes, definitely. So as in all of our workshops, we will take resident comments throughout the process. If there's anything that you want to say, please raise your hand or get our attention on Zoom, and we'll be happy to take your comments as well. So thank you very much. All right, so the first item up is the CCFC discussion regarding the request for proposal on our bids for the pickleball. A group of, just to give you a little background, and Neil, you can jump in as well. Neil met with a group of residents who presented a wonderful plan regarding the use of the fields for pickleball. And we kind of decided we'd like to take a look at that and maybe consider some additional options. To start the conversation, I think we need to talk about field 1, which is the current field that we're using for larger sports, as in lacrosse and soccer. Do we have a motion regarding field 1?
I move that we have no further discussion about field 1.
I'll second it.
I think we've discussed.
Go right ahead.
I think we've discussed it, and I see no purpose in discussing repurposing of field 1.
Since you've got a motion in a second, let me
Yeah.
just clarify for anybody who may be online, because we've looked at field 1, would we repurpose it, yes or no? Then we've looked at lot B, and then we're talking about lot D. And I 100% agree. We just need to take a vote on field 1. I think the entire board has discussed it ad nauseum. Yes, we're willing to repurpose it. No, we're not. And
Yeah, and I think we talked about this on multiple occasions. We've spent a lot of money doing fields 1, 2, and 3. We've had basically two bad years. We had a startup year, so things are getting formulated, and then we had a COVID year. So we really don't know about usage of the complex. And so at this point, to repurpose and even think about repurposing something that we put a lot of money into, I'd say I don't want to go there at all.
Absolutely.
I mean, so my motion is, I don't think we need to talk about it any further. We've talked about it multiple times.
so just to be
And the point
clear,
is to make it, to reach closure, I think is your point.
so just to be clear, your motion was such that a yes vote means we're going to keep it as is
That's
and
correct.
not repurpose it.
I don't
A
want to
no vote would mean we should get bids or something and
Yeah.
consider
Yeah.
it.
So to
repurposing.
clarify, the motion is, I move that we have no further discussion about repurposing field 1 and therefore leave it as it is.
And we focus on lots B and D, if you don't mind.
That is correct. Thank you. Thank you.
And you'd have
you
to
would need
change
to
your
adjust the
second, whoever
second.
seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Celia,
That was
will you
Celia
change your
who jumped in.
But I will too.
Celia, will you change your second then?
Are you okay with what I just read?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any
Thank you,
further
Brian.
discussion? Do we have anyone, no comments raised from the Zoom meeting? I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote that we do not continue to look at field 1 to repurpose it.
And
So
can we call the votes individually?
yes, I will. I'm going to just go around the room because it's easier to keep track of. Celia?
We're not repurposing.
A
Yes.
yes
means-
means you're not in
Yes.
favor.
Yes.
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 means
Yes
no
means no,
repurpose.
yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
Cindy is a yes. Brian?
And I've consistently been a no.
Okay, that's fine. I am a yes. David?
I'm a yes.
Okay, and David is a yes. Do we have, just making sure, is Kevin online? Okay, because I wanted.
Is Jackson was going to try
He just
to.
sent me a note that said he wasn't going to.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so we have a 4-1 vote regarding not repurposing field 1. So at this point, field 1 has been removed from the conversation. And let's move forward with lot B, and then let's talk about lot D.
Can you clarify when you said the D and B sound the same?
They do.
So just,
So let's talk, as part of the meeting that Neil had with the residents, they presented a great proposal for lot D as in dog. And showed some really great proposals as to how to utilize that field. And I think that, we have kind of been protecting that field because we use it for parking, it's closest to the bathrooms, it's closest to the other fields, saying that we're gonna use that in the future. But I really think at this point, that's a big enough field that maybe we can come up with some other options. So I'm open for discussion on lot D as in dog.
D as in dog. Can we put, since we have the presentation in here, can we show, if we have people online who don't have this up, can we show page 12?
can we make a motion so we can discuss? I'll make a motion so we can discuss.
I
it.
actually would like, I have a motion already thought of,
Oh,
if
okay.
you don't mind.
Please.
So, right?
My motion would be, let's get a quote on lot B for pickleball as laid out here that we will discuss.
Lot
Yes, and boy or
Lot B as in boy.
B as in boy.
So hear my motion.
Oh, no, but we were on D, so. I'm just-
And my motion, that's what I'm saying carefully. Lot B, I want a quote on lot B as in boy for pickleball. Lot D as in dog, we would move it down to the end by the CCD building and have a quote for pickleball and a separate quote for adult sports right beside that. And we would also get a quote on the East Village for adult sports so that we as a board, and here's kind of where my thing ends, so that we as a board will have quotes for lot B for pickleball, East Village for adult sports, lot D for pickleball, and lot D for adult sports. And then we can look at the economics of those four options and make a decision. So that's my,
I will second for discussion.
Okay, David, I think
And I would agree with half of what you said because we already approved getting quotes for East Lawn and Lot B. So
and
I
I'm,
would propose that those parts be removed from your motion and just go for what's new.
or do we rescind the prior motion and make a new motion so that it's clear to everybody? I don't care which way we
I
go.
don't care. It's going to end up with the same way.
Yeah,
But
let's rescind the prior motion since we're also making, and that would be my preference,
Okay,
is to rescind the prior
okay.
motion.
So my first motion will be to rescind the prior motion as regards lot B and East Village.
I'll second that.
that's fine.
All in favor?
That was B as in boy?
B as in boy, because we're rescinding the prior motion.
Okay.
Okay, so all in favor of.
Yes.
Now, the discussion is assuming that what you said about a minute ago, which
It's-
has all.
And we're
four-
going right to the next motion.
Yeah, okay, as long as that stays.
Okay, so let's clarify.
Because
We are
otherwise-
rescinding the motion that we made at our last meeting,
Right.
but we asked Neil to get estimates on lot B as in boy and East Village. We're rescinding that motion. I'm going to
Correct.
call for the vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so that passes. So that motion that we made last meeting has now been rescinded. You would like to make a new motion?
The new motion will be, and I'll state it again, so that way Susanna's got plenty of time to catch up in case she missed any words before. We will do a quote on lot B for pickleball, East Village for adult sports, lot D for pickleball all the way down by the CCD building, and lot D for adult sports, then that would be right by the
CROA
pickleball.
building.
No, not the CROA building. So literally, if you look,
Yeah.
I'm standing, which people won't be able to see online.
Yeah.
But if you look.
They-
here,
she's got it
because the way
posted.
They had done it, they had pickleball in the middle, which destroys the whole lot. I don't like that. We got the concession building here, so and this is CDD. So I'm saying, let's move pickleball down here,
Got it?
right by the CDD building. Everybody see that?
Which is,
So it would be right.
Right.
here. And then if we're gonna put adult sports, we'll put it right beside that.
Oh, besides pickleball.
Besides pickleball down here by the CBD, because then that leaves all this space by the concession for parking and everything else for events, concerts and all that type of stuff.
one of the things I like about that is that lot D as in dog, it's much more, it's an easier walking distance to the restrooms, right? Than lot B, because lot B, we were using, we were going to maybe use the CDD bathrooms or the library bathrooms, which are not open all the time, that this field would be open. And I think it's a field, it's probably even more level and prepared, isn't it,
Mhm.
than lot B is in boy.
So
So I like that.
I'll second your motion.
Okay, you second mine.
I'm sorry. Oh, it's
So-
right.
And then what I would
So
like to
could we-
have,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and then what I'd like to have, and this is conversation, not part of the motion, is that when management gets the quotes, they could package East Village and Lot B together, or they can obviously say, here's Lot D for pickleball only or adult sports, but it's a package because you could get one person so that we could look at Lot D for pickleball only and still decide we want East Village. I've sent you all an email. There's a lot of positive feedback on East Village, for example. So that would give us two options for adult sports, two options for pickleball. We get the economics, looking at them individually, moving things around packages, and then we make a business decision.
So as part of that, as companies bid, the company has four, they can bid. I mean, like, take this right here. They may say, we're only going to bid in pickleball. We're not going to bid on the lawn sports over here. Or they may say, we're going to do, we're going to bid it's X for here, for pickleball. But if we did lawn sports here, when we package it, so there's multiple options. It's not just for discrete quotes. It's somehow it might be, if you hire us to do A and B, there's some cost savings.
Right, and we specifically want management to make it clear when you get the quotes, you're doing a mix and match, because we could decide we want to do pickleball on D and still do adult sports at East Village because it's economically better or the community just loves it better.
Or
I mean,
maybe save $250,000 if you do it as a package here. So
Yeah.
we just want to see various
we want
options.
the economics of the different options.
Okay, both of you ladies have comments.
Go ahead.
Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, all right, let me just. All right, so I was up in the middle of the night looking at this. So Lot D is 150 by 750 feet, okay? And Field
Okay.
1 is 155 by 303. We are not doing Field 1. But there is a blueprint that they printed up for Field 1 that would easily fit in Field D.
And B is in boy.
D,
Oh, D.
in D,
You're
because
talking about page 10 where they did the layout?
when they did the layout for Field 1,
Yes.
I taped it to the bottom of Field D.
Mhm.
D, the one near the concession stand. So it almost fits perfect.
Mhm.
If
yeah,
Brian,
it's the measurements.
if Brian, and it has in there the pickleball, the croquet, and it has bocce. And there's even more room if we want to put basketball there, to add basketball, and maybe use Lot B for strictly parking. I don't know, but what they planned for Field 1 actually fits in Lot D.
Mhm.
And if you want to move it down to closer to the CCD building, then you could put parking there instead of basketball. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, you're saying we could go with a couple of design options, and I think that's fine. We could-
Because it's right there already designed for Field 1, and it fits perfect in Lot D.
Well, but the problem with that is that I see is that Field 1 could easily be revenue generating.
Exactly.
Well,
And we haven't had a chance to.
Well, no, we're
Oh, no,
not
we're
gonna do
not-
anything.
we're
with
not
Field
doing
One.
Field
That's
One.
dead.
We're
It's on the
done.
table. No,
So
she just said
that's-
the design they had for Field 1
This-
could fit on
oh,
Lot D.
design
No,
plan.
Field 1 is dead. We're never
Yeah.
talking about
That's
it
what I
again.
thought. Okay.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
this-
we have moved on past. that.
Right, so this is the design plan for Field 1, which fits perfect
Perfectly
in
on.
Lot D
Oh.
with a lot of extra space.
I'm looking for, I think we've got a lot of options for the companies that are gonna do this proposal. I think this is a great layout that I'm sure Neil will use when he talks to the companies. And, show them that this is the think of our residents. Because that was a great proposal. And I'm looking forward to what they come up with. I mean, I think I don't want to give them too strict of guidelines because they may have some better options of things that they've built. So let's give them a little leeway in coming up with the options to tell us what they think will fit best. I also wonder, have we talked about, are we doing the Cadillac and going
So
full out? Or are we gonna look at,
Well-
have them quote different price options?
That's what I would like to see different things added, because just on what they're saying, like Lot D, there's no lighting. Do we want lighting?
We have.
Yeah,
to
and
apply.
you
Have to
need-
have lights.
And so that was not part of their thing. So we need to talk about lighting. And I also don't want to forget that when we were looking at lot B with lighting, the lighting option also included the dog park.
Did.
So
That needs
I
to
don't
be,
want to forget the dog park. They've been working on lighting for 3 or 4 years.
that needs to be a separate motion because it's not included in our new motion right
Okay.
now.
Right.
So I would entertain that you could make that motion when we're finished with this conversation.
For
and
the add-on
For the
items,
add-on
Well,
to the dog park.
If
'cause we
we're
haven't
going,
talked about that.
if we adopt this motion, then maybe we could agree to have going to Celia's point, why don't we have the pickleball group and the adult sports groups work with management to come up with a final design? And I agree, we should have a
Design
motion that
options,
adds on
those
lighting and a
those
couple
things.
things.
Yes.
And I had another.
So
item I wanted to do.
then what it says here in the vision page, I think this is page 2, permanent dedicated, instead of it saying permanent dedicated pickleball facility, it should say permanent dedicated sports facility built to a quality level expected in celebration. So we may be
They've
looking
written
at
by
the cat.
pickleball group. That's
this is
what-
only
Yeah.
written by pickleball.
All right, well, but that sentence can change to sports facility.
I think, I think that's how we're envisioning.
That's
it
how,
as
yeah, I was
part
gonna
of
say,
this
but for what
motion.
we're bidding on here, it
Yeah.
can be, well, right, I understand what you're
That's
saying.
how I agree. We're
That's what-
envisioning,
that's
that's
what we're
what the
envisioning.
motion.
We
is
want it to
for.
be state of the art for its
Well,
celebration.
So
Well,
I
not-
don't want to be state of the art. I want, we got $1.4 million. We got $1 million to spend. So if we go state of the art, we're not going to be able to make it. And I personally believe that where we're going to end up is we're going to have to make an economical decision around pickleball and adult sports. And then we're going to have to wait on Island Village and stuff to start building up the coffers. We've got people who are giving us an outcry about community center, revising the 851 building, whatever the strategy may be. I mean, I really think that where we're at as a board is we can make a pickleball decision and an adult sports decision, and then we need to start saving some money. Because
Yeah.
until we have another $1 million or $2 million of spendable assets, we can't make other decisions. So we're really making a
Yeah.
get it done economically decision, I
Well,
think.
of course, everything's got to be economically.
Yes.
But you said state of the art.
Well-
Trust me, there are people listening to this.
Oh,
We
I
have.
I have
No,
to
no,
take
we
that
went-
back.
No,
That-
no.
that's
We
okay.
went down this path a couple of years ago, and you can build a Taj Mahal of everything, and it gets very expensive.
Okay,
So that's
So
why I,
yeah, with our budget in mind, we know what we've got to
Yes.
spend, but we want a quality,
Quality.
usable, acceptable pickleball court within the confines of our budget.
and the
Okay.
croquet and
Yeah.
Neil and
whatever else.
Suzanne, is it crystal clear what we're talking about here?
Yes. Neil, that was a yeah.
So
Sorry,
as part of that,
I mean, I don't love getting quotes just for the sake of getting quotes, so I think you guys kind of lowest comp, like getting this a little bit more succinct and directed, I think it'll be better and faster.
Well, and we're also saying we're committed to this, so
Yeah.
we're.
Yeah, the money's
we're-
gonna.
We're
gonna do
leading
this.
to a business decision.
Okay,
and as part of the motion, are we getting those add-ons or?
So
we
we'll
make
do
that
the
separate?
add-ons as a next motion.
gonna-
So
okay.
let's agree that we
Thank you.
want to get the
Okay,
B and
got
D
it.
quotes.
Got it.
Cindy,
Okay. So first I have questions.
yes.
So what's involved in a croquet court? Are we gonna fence it?
If you were talking about a croquet court down on East Village, I don't think you have to fence it. You
Okay,
have
so
to
no
have a
fence.
special type of grass that's kept low and cut low.
Mhm.
And you're gonna need to put in, what we did last time is you put in a shrubbery or something that creates a boundary. So we
Visual.
want it
Okay.
protected to the point where it's obvious you shouldn't be over there and
It's a visual
Do you
divider.
are we gonna have permanent stakes and hoops in there?
I don't know if we will or not. I'll let the croquet people worry about that.
Okay, so here was my thought that you guys are gonna shoot me. And
birthday, we wouldn't do that.
so Diana,
Yes,
don't you think that that piece of land behind Heritage Hall is underused?
I said that
never
at the
see-
last, yeah.
Yeah.
I rarely see anybody there. If
and
we-
and you're asking me because I live right next to
I mean,
it.
so do I,
Yeah,
and
so
I
we all- we
pass
both
it and
live
I
in that
rarely
building.
see, and it always looks like some kind of a pickup game. that
It is
somebody's doing.
normally a pickup. I do see some teams on there, but not on a regular schedule. It is just an open pickup field for open play.
Because my thought was, if we put the croquet there,
Mhm,
we've already got the bathrooms
mhm.
for Heritage Hall. There's already shrubbery that goes all the way around there, so you could just, a little bit of shrubs. I don't remember the grasses that they have. You know?
You'll have to replace the grass wherever you go to
Yeah,
get
it's
the
gonna
right
have to
kind of
be
grass.
the
Okay.
That can be
specific
cut
kind of
down.
grass
Yeah.
that they need.
But I mean, that would cost, and plus, can you put a path through a wetland thing, like at East Village?
That's a question we're gonna have to ask because East Lawn is considered, I believe that is a wetland.
Yeah.
That's
behind-
complicated.
And so then you're
Yeah.
building this path, and I know critters live there because I used to live across the street and I hear those critters in there. You know,
Yeah,
they're-
oh, I'm sure that it's a
There's a
populated.
way, but-
There-
But
There's
I
a way
mean-
of doing it because we have paths through all of the community, which all that's wetlands that's back there. So there's gotta be some way of doing it, but we would have to have a bid.
But I'm just
and-
thinking if we just use a little swath of that land, you don't have to buy the bathrooms. You'll build bathrooms. You don't have to build a path to the
Mhm.
bathrooms. There's parking all around there.
This,
How-
David will probably remember this. Vaughn led our efforts on
Yeah.
adult sports a couple, 3 years
That's right.
ago. And this area was looked at, and the feeling back then was that, people needed it because they were playing soccer and stuff like that. Maybe the fields now have changed all that. And I think part of the problem became when the fields always became for rent. So I'm at some point here, I want to have the conversation. We're going to build on lot D or lot B. We're not going to charge people to do this. So I am of the opinion, because I wanted to drive out to look at the corridor and everything before coming to the meeting today, and I still can't get in there. We said we wanted to change access to these fields so that it was just like a pool. You use your ID card to get in as a resident. You can't do that yet. I don't think we should be charging anybody. I do think when you talk about a soccer club, or if there was a pickleball tournament for the pickleball club of whatever,
Then
and
we
it brought
charge.
in revenues, we should
Mhm.
charge to cover town center expenses and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But to me, and one of the things I've been playing with is the 2021 budget, just looking at the corridor, just no different than a pool. And by golly darn, this is going to shock you, but pools are not cheap either. And we don't charge to go to pools and everything else. So I would, really like to make this an open access area.
Yep.
And then I think people will go out there for their games, because field one may be a little wet sometimes, but for kids having fun on a 5-on-5 teenager game, they'll be perfectly happy on field one, and let them use it, I think.
Well, but the purpose of me bringing this up is,
Because when you do something like what you talked about with Heritage Hall, which I think is a fine idea, then you really are saying, this is space is for adult sports only, you can't get on it. And
Well-
that's what we're saying.
if we rent that field, which I can't imagine, Neil, wouldn't Parks and Recreation have an idea how many times that is rented?
We are talking about field one.
Are you
Or what
talking
I'm
Heritage
talking about
Hall?
behind Heritage
Spring
Hall.
Park.
Oh, almost never. It's
Exactly.
pickup
Yeah.
sports only. I know what that
And,
is.
you know,
I
there's
used to live
parking
there
there.
too.
We'd
Or
have
a
to do
dog
something-
park.
We'd have to do something to adjust the parking on
Mhm.
Indigo. So you're not doing. you don't
There's a
have to
lot
do
of
parking?
street parking on Indigo, and I agree, though, it does get congested, because I have been over there as well. I think what you're saying would be a separate quote of doing. Spring
I'm saying
Park.
forget East Lawn.
Mhm.
Yeah. But
Um,
I think,
I mean, just on a strict cost basis, because there's so much less you'd have to do.
I think I brought up Heritage Park at one of our meetings when we discussed it, and you voted against using it.
Not me.
You voted a no.
did you? All right, we'd have to go back and look. So
She
looking
didn't
at.
want neighborhood noise.
And that's
Not my
something,
backyard.
that's,
Yeah.
I don't think people are screaming when they're playing
No,
croquet.
I think that's probably.
So
what
we're
we're
not gonna- Yeah,
So
so we're
here-
not gonna have the neighbors saying they don't want that noise there.
So looking at the diagram that they gave us, it looks like a croquet court is 60 feet by 12 feet. I don't play croquet, but I'm assuming that that's what that is.
No, that is not correct.
That is not correct. Who's saying that?
This-
But I-
This is Dave Eastman from Pickleball, but I'm working with the croquet guys.
Thank
What you're
you.
looking at on that 60 by 12, that's a bocce court.
Oh, okay. So the other one, which is, okay, so the other, the croquet court is gonna be the other one, which is, looks like 79 by 64.
Hey, Dave, since you're on, you actually worked with Bond a little, if I remember right, back a couple of years ago. You looked at the land behind Heritage Hall, right?
No, we did not. But I was not part of that discussion with Bond.
Maybe Steve Northridge or somebody else knows. Is there any reason why the land behind Heritage Hall wouldn't work for adult sports?
For pickleball, I don't think it would be appropriate because.
Oh,
of the
no,
noise
we're
level.
not talking pickleball.
No.
We're talking croquet and the
Yeah.
adult
Okay.
sports stuff that we were talking about for East Village.
Okay, you said adult sports. I thought you were incorporating everything. Bocce ball, I don't know. I don't play bocce or I don't play croquet, so I don't really know. But from just eyeballing, I would guess that the size might be appropriate, but I don't know if the croquet people have any comments. I have no idea.
Okay.
Brian,
So-
it's Kevin Kirby. I'll just dive into this because I recall that specifically, and I think one of the I don't think there was any negative reason behind it. I think it just fell off the radar, to be quite frank. Tying into any path in that area, if that's the area that we were talking about, I know that TCC would not allow any brick path or anything other than a mulch path to go ahead and go the surrounding area around Heritage Hall if we were looking to go ahead and do something for easy access from Spring Park Road as an example, or Begonia or anything over there.
Oh, to cut,
They
you
would not
mean,
allow that.
that's to cut through the surrounding trees, right?
Yeah, that shrubbery, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
why
they
can't-
cut through it
why
anyway
can't they
now
just
by
cut
just
through where the
walking through the
tables are?
trees now.
Correct. And that's why we said, hey, let's go ahead, let's put a nice path in there. And a big thing with TCC was no, it can only be a mulch path.
What's
Are you
wrong- what's
talking
wrong with
about-
that?
There's a
Well, there's
sign
no-
on there already.
Well, there's
No.
no problem. No, they're
No, we're-
talking about if you cut through the woods there, a mulch path.
So
they
if you
want
have-
For easy access.
Yes.
Oh,
So we're talking, there are two access points. There's an access point on Begonia and there's an
Okay.
access point on Spring Park Street. But
okay.
when you go up to Spring Park Loop, if you have to park up there,
You have to
there's
walk
not an
around.
access point. You have to walk around. So at that point, and it's been a long time and I remember that conversation. It was, we would make a cut through so they could park up there on Spring Park Loop to ease the parking on Spring Park Street and Begonia.
Mhm.
That gave them more options for parking. They could just cut through on a path instead of having to come down by the pool or the playground to get into the circle, into
Correct.
the play field.
I actually think, I mean, Kevin, just to catch up, before you joined, we voted that field one is going to stay as is, and we're done discussing it. So,
I don't know
which
yet.
brings us on to this conversation. I think Heritage Hall would be perfect if we wanted to look at it, because it's already got woods on 3 sides.
Exactly.
So is this,
Okay.
okay,
But I don't want to mislead anybody. We're not going to take a little piece of it. We're going to end up taking quite a bit
Which
of it.
takes it
That's
away.
what I did do the measurement type stuff with Vaughn on East Village. It's not small. So to lay it out, you're talking about taking most of that space. And then I think if people have to move, I really think we ought to be opening up the civic corridor to be open to residents with a passkey type system.
I
and then-
completely agree with opening up the civic corridor. that we
Can I
we
ask you a
access that.
question? There's two gates there. There's the black gate and then there's the gate into the fields. Who's the black gate belong to?
The first game.
The first gate, as you pass the CCD building and there's the little driveway where they have their vehicles, then there's a black gate that's locked at night. And then
That belongs to, as far as I know, that belongs to CROA.
That's
ours.
Yeah,
That's
that's
our
our
gate.
the black one.
Yeah, why would, that's
That's ours.
the
That's
actual
our property.
first
That's our
entry
property.
point to the field.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure
Okay.
if that was CCD
No,
gate.
no, that's not, there's.
So that needs to be,
That needs to be redone also.
well, it would need
There's
to
only
be,
one gate.
No, there's a gate onto the fields also.
No.
Yeah, there's a separate gate going to the field.
when you
right
get
by
past the bathroom.
Concession stand.
Okay, I see. Yeah. you're
So-
right. Okay, I know.
What we need to do is come up with an hours plan as to when that black gate is
Gets,
open.
right.
And then when it's open to the residents. And then, because I don't know that having key card, we could have key card
Well,
access to
pools
that.
Have limitations on when you can open
Right.
them.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay,
it's the
but
same
let's-
thing as opening. Let's go
let's
back. Yeah,
focus on one
yeah,
thing.
Yeah, we're,
Do we want to revise the motion to say that we want to also look at Heritage Hall as an option? Is that something?
So a question with that is, if it was converted, that would negate casual pickup play just for this and that.
Well, that's going to be the case at Heritage Hall or East Village. Wherever you have this adult sports with this special type of grass,
Yeah.
it's got to be for
Yeah,
this.
but the East Village was a portion of that area where there's a ball field.
Mhm.
And Heritage Hall. So that's one issue. And then second, we would have to get into a very detailed discussion, particularly with residents who might use that, as to whether that's a viable option, because it takes away their casual play.
I think, I agree that they do use that for casual. They also use the front yard of Heritage Hall as
Mhm.
casual pickup play,
Mhm.
probably
A lot.
even
A lot.
more
Right.
Absolutely.
than the field
Yes.
behind. And I'm not sure why that is, but they do. Maybe because it's closer to the playground. So, I personally am not opposed to getting an estimate on Spring Park. I'd like to see what it,
On Heritage Hall, you mean?
I call it Spring Park.
Same.
It is, isn't it? It is
Yeah.
Spring Park. That's
It's
what we
Spring Park.
always
It's
call
Spring
it.
Park.
Heritage Hall, Spring Park. To make sure that, to see what it's gonna take, see how much of the field it's gonna take, what it's gonna take to convert it. I'm okay with
So we
that.
could do Heritage Hall and East Village to see which one is more optimal for it.
Lawn sports.
And they may be, and then we can get resident. feedback.
But economically,
It should be.
if you have somebody doing pickleball and they choose to do croquet and they choose to do the bocce all together and give you like a package deal, isn't it economically best to just do it all in lot D?
Don't know.
Don't know.
We don't know
That's
until
what
we
we're
get the
gonna find out.
estimate.
Okay.
Well, and if you used, part of the problem may be that people don't know where all these larger swaths of land are.
Right.
If I had always lived in South Village, I would have no reason to be just driving through East
Yeah.
Village for, unless I knew somebody who lived there. So, maybe if we do take Spring Lake Park, and we, not Spring Lake.
Spring
Hall.
Park, Heritage Hall. Let's call it Heritage Hall. so we
Yeah,
don't- So we all use the
Heritage
same
Hall.
terminology.
We could put croquet there, we could put horseshoes there, we could put,
Shuffleboard.
shovel, we could put a lot of those things there.
Mhm.
I think that'd be fine.
I
So
think-
I
The
just,
reason, going back to your point about could you do it cheaper on lot D, one of the things we have to worry about is if the economics are close, you may go for a slightly more expensive option because once you give up lot D space, it's gone. And that's space out there is at a premium because as we think about things for the future, it's the only space we have left.
just for a point of information, Tim and Mike were saying that the Montessori school uses the park behind the Heritage Hall at recess.
They contract us to use it?
I don't know about that part.
That would be a question. we
Unless
need-
they have a contract.
They do, you're right, they do use it for recess.
Okay.
But they could use over by the playgrounds too.
They do use the playground.
use the playground,
They
and
do.
I see them in the front,
Yeah.
I don't normally see them.
I've
If-
seen them both.
I
I've
mean-
seen them both places.
I'll add, and Diana, I mean, you're right here. A lot of us are right here or have been over here. I go up Croton Road and I'll go ahead and I'll turn onto Spring Park Road. And usually it seems like it's more the after school hours that it's definitely very full with the pickup games, as we're saying. I like the idea of throwing something back there. It's a large piece of land. I don't want to take more than half of it, to be honest. Because I think part of this area and part of Celebration as a whole is that everybody has small lots and small backyards and small areas that they can't go ahead and throw a ball. And having those community parcels just to throw a ball are really what makes Celebration. So I just want to be cautious when we're taking a lot of it, keeping in mind all age ranges in the community, not just adult sports. So just let's keep that in mind as we're looking at different areas.
Yeah, I agree. I think that goes back to the philosophy of small lots, community parks, bringing our residents together. I would not be opposed to getting the estimate just because it's a valid piece of land. We may look at it and say it takes too much once we get the estimate, but it also may work out very well. So I'm fine with amending it to also include Heritage Hall Park to have croquet and bocce, right? The adult
I
sports.
think that would be fine.
Who made the motion?
The motion was made by
You.
me, and seconded
Seconded
by
by-
Celia.
Oh, was it Celia or
Or
David?
It
maybe I don't
was
know.
me.
You and me, okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with the change.
So
that-
I would be fine, but clarification, when we did the motion for lawn sports, was that including bocce or just croquet?
We're calling adult sports croquet and bocce, aren't we?
Or was it just,
croquet?
my assumption when we were talking about East Village was just croquet. I don't remember any bocce discussion until just now.
When we were talking about East Village and when we got the quotes, I think it was for croquet only. It was lawn sports. It was adult lawn sports is
Yeah.
what it was.
So we should be consistent with whatever we do.
Okay. So are we considering bocce as part of this or just considering
We
croquet?
didn't have that as part of
We
the
did not.
assessment. It didn't rise.
You are correct.
I mean, I would just,
And they
I
still
would
have
just
the
honor
bocce
what we
ball
have.
court in Artisan Park, don't they?
Yes, they
yeah,
do.
they're bocce in
Okay.
Artisan Park.
Okay, adult lawn sports,
So that's croquet only.
croquet only.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
so I'm okay with that clarification. I'm okay with amending the motion, Brian's motion and second, with a second.
So we have a motion and we have a second to get a quote for lot B as in boy for pickleball. Get a quote on lot D for pickleball and adult lawn sports. A quote for East Village for adult lawn sports and for the park behind Heritage Hall for adult lawn sports. And it has been seconded. I'm going to call for the vote. I'm going to call online first because I think we both have. Jackson, are you able to vote
He's actually, he's on,
in the
on
air?
hold. He's online, he told me. or he's-
Okay, so I don't know if he can hear what
listening.
we're doing. Kevin, your vote?
Yay.
Celia,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes, ma'am.
Brian,
Yes.
Well, can I just ask a question, please? I'm
we got to
sorry.
finish the vote and then you can ask
Okay.
a question.
Yes,
David
Yes.
and Diana is a yes, so that passes. Your question, ma'am.
So it's going to be for pickleball and croquet, and where that little drawing is for bocce is not going to be.
At this point, we did not include it in this motion.
Okay.
Okay. David, did you want to make a motion regarding the dog park lighting?
Well, I think the motion would be broader. What, didn't we also want to discuss having at least the pickleball group identify what do they need?
I think they
I
have.
mean, yeah,
They
but
already
they don't
have
have,
in here.
if they did lot D as in dog, they do not have lights in there.
I think we had thought, we had just,
We had
Had it-
assumed,
we had assumed that lights were part of it.
so we
they
need
could-
add-on.
Okay,
Well,
Go ahead.
what else do we need is add,
Well, they
so
had
when
in
management
here-
gets the quotes, is it all or none? Or are we looking, asking, we want some itemized add-ons?
If you go to the next page, Neil, up there, or whoever's running the screen,
yeah, the vision, the
that
scope.
like
because
lot-
here, if you go to the next page, we got facility scope and we got amenities, and the amenities there include lighting.
Yes, it does.
So,
Oh, I just didn't see it under the
yeah, can you
compliance.
just blow
piece.
that up a little if it's humanly possible? For those of us
What
who are
page are we-
blind,
what page
that's
are we on?
page 3.
You see lighting on page 3?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Lighting,
it's
for
page 6.
fourth item down.
Page 6.
Page 6,
Okay, because I
Page
was on
6.
page 3.
shade
Sorry, I
structures,
apologize.
seating, equipment storage, lighting, covered courts.
Okay.
Page 6.
That's an option.
And then there would be fencing, correct?
Yeah, go up to the previous page,
Mhm.
please.
Oh, facility scope, got it.
So there, it's got,
Yeah.
12 courts, north-south orientation, perimeter fencing. The
Restroom.
restroom.
I would not
we
have
would not be
restroom.
Quoting.
I would not have restroom in a quote.
They have access to a
They have
restroom.
access to the
so
one
that-
at the
right.
building.
Landscaping, they would have to quote. Security cameras we put up everywhere, right?
Security cameras, definitely.
Hey,
Abs-
guys, let me jump in. Dave Eastman here. If you scroll down a few slides, you'll see that Steve Northridge put together for each of those lots, what is needed and what is already available, other than the additional amenities.
What
So
page
if
are
you
you,
s-
what page are you referring to, please? You
Hold
know,
on
Eight
just a second.
14, David?
It'd be page 13.
13.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I see
Lot
page
D
8.
would be 16.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
It's whatever page follows the drawings. There's a page
Yeah,
that
I
summarizes
figured,
the
yeah.
scope. And the stuff that was listed as amenities was intended to be sort of optional things that could be quoted as
14,
optional
got it.
pieces.
I agree. Yeah, that, you've got pretty much everything. So there's lot B. Page 8 is lot B. And everything is needed because that's an undeveloped lot. And
Right.
then page 11 is field 1, which we're moving forward. And then lot D also is page 14. Right? Yeah.
So for consistency with lot B as in boy,
Mhm.
would we add restroom into that?
I
I would argue no.
I would think that what we ought to be doing here is getting pricing for component pieces, because I'll gladly let the resident speak, but sometimes you're better off with 60% of something than a 0% of perfection.
Yeah.
And if we price the component pieces and find out that perfection cost $1.5 million and we can't do anything, and 60% can be done for $850,000,
Yeah.
that may look great.
Yeah.
And we'll welcome resident comments. But I mean, so I think if we're going to price a bathroom on lot B, it has to be as just a possible, and this is what it would cost if we did.
Okay.
Brian, if I may on that, and while we're discussing restrooms, the CDD lot is right next door. Everybody that would be a member of CROA would be able to use those restrooms there.
CDD buildings
think-
not open at appropriate times for use for pickleball. A lot of times they're not.
That can be a conversation we have with CDD as a whole.
It's also, it's only a single, very small restroom in there. We did go and look, and you have to go past I'm not sure that you want people trooping in there during their business hours, but
And it's closed on weekends, right?
Yeah, well, I think he's saying, could we have that building
In
open
the
at
interim,
the
yeah.
hours necessary just for access to the bathroom only?
So then anybody could just go into that building.
No, well, it'd have to be key, you
It'd
know,
have to
there's,
be
there's a
key.
lot
I
of
mean,
questions that go
well-
along with this, is access, timing, even whether it's a possibility.
Jack-
Let's
Jack
let's
McGill-
get the quotes and
so-
see what we have.
So Jack McLaughlin actually reached out to me and Jackson, since we're CDD liaisons, and you know where CDD has their dumpsters right there. They wanted to have, to rent a little bit of lot B and then they could put up nice shrubbery and everything like that. What if we, if we want to consider that, we could ask them to put a bathroom outside at their expense that we could utilize for this.
I think that's going to be a much different conversation, because it actually brings me back to they're currently using it, not paying for it. So they're just doing what they want to do anyhow. So
Kevin,
I'm not even entertaining any of that.
I 100% agree with you, Kevin. I think there ought to be a cost to it, which is why I'm actually saying on the recorded conversation, maybe they should pay to put a bathroom out there and put shrubs up, and then they'd be paying for something.
That could be a very good option. I agree. Okay.
if you look at the Lot B drawing, we put the restroom actually on the dog park site because it'd be a shared facility is what that was suggestion. I mean, I agree that everything should be componentized and it should be line items so you can determine what we can have and what we can't afford. I think that was a big deficit in the original RFP bids that we received. They were very, you couldn't break them down to even understand the bid at all. It's very, very poorly constructed in terms of the responses. So I agree that they should be line items that should be determined with the price so we can make a determination of what we can afford.
So
I agree with Steve there. And if I may, I just want to go ahead and go back to how the fields as a whole went. And Brian, before we stepped onto the board, the prior board to us turned around and built fields without restrooms and said, well, the kids can go in the shrubs. And that was not an acceptable option. And we came in and said, okay, listen, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. In this aspect, I turn around and I look at something like the restrooms, because I do support between the dog park and pickleball having a restroom. I just think that might be a future development kind of a thing if we keep that in mind, cost pending.
Sure.
Right. I 100% agree with what Kevin said. I get the component costing and we figure out, because I very much want to at least give 60% of 100 so that we get the sports moving and we can, monies will keep coming in as Island Village happens.
Okay, so David, looking at this, the line items that they've given, I think that's where you're headed.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so just looking at those line items, getting component parts, and I would also include those that are listed as amenities. I mean, they have shade structure. We're talking about pickleball right now. Shade structure, we should have that as a component part. Seating or benches should be a component part. Equipment storage, lighting. I don't know that I want to go the route of covered courts because I think that would dramatically change things, but we can get an estimate, but.
Who's speaking right now?
That's David.
Yeah, David, this is Dave Eastman again with the Pickleball Group. Please don't discount that unless you're fully familiar with what that opportunity provides.
Okay, so I mean, I think we could.
And
I think it may be an option.
It may be an option.
I think the initial impression is it may be outside of our price range, but.
And whether it's
If it's an
all
option.
courts or 2 courts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Are you suggesting all courts or some courts?
I personally think that's discussions down the road where I get a line item for maybe 4 of the courts being covered, just as a line item.
Okay, so cover 4 courts, get an estimate.
Okay.
If I could just make a comment, there's a sidebar on the covered courts that could be an advantage. There's a lot of discussion at Tech Committee regarding the solar panels. Putting covered courts would create an excellent opportunity to combine that activity of solar panels and also covered courts. So just something to put in the back of your mind.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. That gets us for technology as well as recreation.
And I guess the other part that's a little add-on is back to the dog park with the lights.
Add it
Again,
on
they've been-
as an add-on, a component piece that we can.
That's a component
look
piece
at.
that we would need to get a bid on.
So do we need to make a motion for this, or do we want to just
In
give
terms
Neil
of the bids, this is all
direction?
about getting the
Yeah,
bids.
so do we need to make a motion on these bids, or do we just need to give specific, we've already made the motion to have the bids. Do we need to give just a specific list to Neil on what
So
we're
that,
asking?
so that
for?
there's no confusion at all, I'll make a motion that the amenities and add-ons as defined in here get priced on a line item basis for the different quotes we're getting, so that we can make a pick and choose decision about what we can economically afford when the time comes,
Including lighting for the dog park.
including lighting for the dog park. We will add there as
Just-
an add-on, yes.
Just a clarification of your motion. We're talking about pickleball only right now.
Yes, pickleball only.
Because I'll second that. And then may have a separate motion.
Okay,
Unless you want to, so here's I'll second it. So here's my discussion with lawn sports, what add-ons might be necessary? Might there need to be benches? I mean, it would be very minimal. Might there need to be benches? Might there need to be a shade structure? That's a question. If
Dave-
so, we should get a bid on that.
Doesn't Heritage Hall in the back, doesn't it have
Yeah, it does.
a
Overhang.
patio with a,
yeah, that's
with
picnic,
a
yeah.
thing there?
But-
So, you know, there's your
Two
shade.
picnic benches.
Yeah.
But if you did,
East
since we're
Village.
getting a bid for
East Village.
East Village.
croquet in lot D as in dog, would you want a shade structure there? If it's placed next to pickleball, that's a question. Would you want benches there? If you did it at East Lawn, do you want benches? Do you want a shade structure? These are questions. Do we want to get pricing on that?
I think
As
we
part
should,
of our
I think we
add-on.
should get pricing on that, on line items for all that.
Okay.
And then we can either say yes or no based on what we can afford.
Well, it's on the diagrams, the
Yes.
covered seating areas.
Yeah,
Are
but
we
we don't
talking
have a
about,
motion. We don't have a motion. It doesn't get into
Okay.
the bid.
so we're talking about shade over the actual courts?
shade for spectators to have some shade.
Right, okay.
No, just a little shade structure. where
Right.
you
Yeah.
Like
Some-
want to cool down.
Shaded seating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
okay.
a small.
Small.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to include the line items as listed by the pickleball proposal. And a second, including dog park lighting,
Yes.
and we need to vote on that.
Yes.
Okay, Kevin,
Question, because I support this all, but we don't have anything talking about dog park within this agenda anywhere. Is this an appropriate time for that?
it was included, Kevin, in the motion that we rescinded from the last meeting. That's why it's included in this conversation.
As long as it's all following the proper path there, yes, I'll support this.
Okay, so you're a yes on this.
Yes.
Jackson, I don't know if you can hear us. Anyone getting a text message from Jackson? And I'm gonna, okay, nope,
And now he's disconnected.
okay,
But I have text.
he's trying his best. Celia, yes, on
Yes.
yes or no? Yes. Cindy,
Yes,
Brian,
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Okay, so we have the direction to move forward. Motion passes for the line items on pickleball, including dog park lighting.
And the
Okay,
only other little add-on was the, if you will, croquet with shade structure and seating
Right.
in locations where that would be appropriate.
Right.
I mean, Heritage Hall, it may not be appropriate, but
That
at
may
least,
not be
getting those quotes. It's just a quote. So I make a motion that would parallel Brian's and just add it just for those two items, the shade structure and seating.
Can I add a comment from
sure.
Dave Eastman again? Trying not to overspeak for croquet, but through our discussions with croquet, there are more than just those two line items that I believe that they're going to request. And so before the RFP goes out, would it be prudent for Neil to get with Dave Phillips and the Croquet Association in town to
Okay.
verify what line items they would like to get priced as part of this RFP
That's fine.
versus.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for that. And so my motion would be amended to include other items that Neil develops in consultation with the Croquet Group.
Well, we said the line item stuff related.
So it's a
to it.
line
We'll just
item.
have him come
It's
up
just
with a
line
list
item.
of line items working with.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Kevin,
Yes.
Celia,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes,
Brian,
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Okay, so that passes as well. Okay. All right, is there anything further that we have on the agenda to discuss about lawn sports, pickleball? I think,
Just-
any other questions, any other
Just a
conversation?
clarification, just a comment to Neil and Susanna. I know that this is a lot. And I also know that building appropriate RFPs, is that the right? Yeah, building that documentation so it could go to bid is not something you can do in 24 hours. It's a lot of work to do that. So I'm just fast forwarding as to what a proposed timeline might be. So we're at middle of April. It may take a month, I'm guessing, to build an RFP. And then you give companies maybe, how long does it take for companies to bid?
Neil, something
I'm
like
making
this-
up, I don't know the
That's a que- yeah, I
timeline.
think that's a
Does
question.
it, does
yeah.
it, yeah, does it take a month? I mean, once you put it out there, you contact companies, what do you give them? A month, 6 weeks, 2 weeks? I don't know.
How long have you given the RFP candidates?
They get 2 months.
I mean, I'm just thinking of what have you
2
done
months,
recently?
2
that
months.
Two,
makes
they
Yeah,
get,
for
yeah,
the
they get
RFP, 2 months.
They received it, yeah, so
So
they.
you've only worked on it for 2 months?
No,
No.
worked on the RFP was a 6-month process.
But, to get the request to go out, I mean, we had already had the work from before, so we ought to be able to use it. I would think it requires dedicated resource to get it done, but maybe you call on the pickleball and croquet groups to help write the
Help write
RFP.
what the specs are.
Yeah, let's use them.
Like I'll be honest, this is a lose-lose question. Why doesn't the board just tell us what you want and we'll do our best?
Okay,
Because I can't commit all these other organizations to like, if I say, hey, you will have it in 60 days, I can't guarantee that for them.
and we are looking at estimated, we're not saying, we're looking at an estimated timeline that doesn't exceed, because we want to move this forward. The whole point of this is to move this
So-
forward. now
Sounds
that we
like
have
the
it.
timeline is ASAP. That's
So
what
let me translate that
That's true,
differently.
but
We have a budget freeze until July 1?
Yeah.
I think it was June 30. So would it be appropriate to have ask for all finalized proposals from potential bidders by that date?
so
That's-
it's 90
that's too-
almost 90 days.
By July 1st,
Yeah, by
to
bidders,
have all the bids back.
have bids back.
So that's
That's a question.
that's 2.5 months to prepare them and send them out and get bids.
That's a question. Is that a reasonable request?
Honestly.
Let's just say it and
It-
we'll try our best.
If I may, I'm going to throw out an unpopular opinion or question. We are going through an RFP process for a management company. If the management company is not the same management company in place, if CCMC is not the management company, is this a large project that will be shifted through changes of management? And is that something we need to keep in mind?
My comment would, we don't know RFP, the other RFP, the management company RFP is going to come out. But I also, I understand your point, but I don't think we can stop work on this. And I don't think that's
That
what
means
you're
putting off a
advocating.
year.
Well, I guess how I think about the question would be, what we could control is how fast we get the RFP out. And if we ask the pickleball group, they've got a couple of people, and the adult sports, a couple of people to work with management to get the darn things done. It'll take 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks, whatever it takes. And then we get them out. And then let's ask the people we give it to how long it'll take, because they may have 3 things they're bidding on. They may have 300 things they're bidding
Yeah,
on.
that's fair.
Yeah, so they're going to have to tell us. Then when we make a decision, we're going to figure out, okay, what is the timing about this? Because we may make a decision on July 1 and they may tell us they're not able to start until December 1. I mean, that's an unknown. So the question is the right question. I'm just not sure we know the answer to have the timing.
We can start this process. We can start this, and I'm supporting all of that. It's the groundbreaking day that I think we won't know really until the management RFP is complete, which we'll know,
Yeah,
honestly,
I
in
agree.
August. So
Agreed.
they will go together, and we need to keep that in mind for the public that it is going to be fluid in that aspect.
I think it's reasonable to assume that 90 days for getting the RF, because there's several, working with the different groups with their schedule, sending it out and waiting, because look how long the drainage report took. There were so many COVID things that postponed that.
Right.
So I think 90 days is at least a good time frame to expect, for expectations.
target.
Well, wait. You're saying 90 days for us to get out our RFP?
No, to get the RFP to work with the different groups, get it out, get bids.
Okay,
Yeah.
that I can live with.
Yeah,
Okay,
general
gotcha.
time frame.
So why don't
And
we
we
just
had-
target 90 days rather than July 1? 90 days would be
Mid
July
July.
10th.
Right, and that would be perfect.
Just
So
that
again,
would be perfect.
reach out to the pickleball group and reach out to the croquet group.
And
To
pickleball group
finalize-
is mainly done. It's mainly done.
I think it's heavily done, and to the extent you need to utilize those resources, they're motivated to get this moving, so they'll work with us.
And one thing, and I want this done and I want to move forward and we want to get this moved, but we want to make sure that we get the bids that we need to get this done correctly. So we don't have to circle back at some point.
Yeah.
So it needs to be comprehensive.
So will we combine pickleball and croquet groups together so they can discuss it together?
They can make that decision.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because-
management can work with them. Let's just stay out of
Okay.
it. Let them get this stuff done. They know each other. I can promise you, they all know each other well.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
what I'd like to request, because we need to move to the RFP.
Yes, we do.
Badly, but for a future agenda, Susanna, on your list of topics, we need to go back to this topic of opening the gates out there, getting the card key system, free access and stuff like that. We need to have that community discussion and not in the distant future. I mean, that needs to make it the next 6 weeks or something.
What do you
If-
So the
asking for?
next
I didn't hear
workshop?
that.
We talked about civic corridor, getting a card system like the
Oh, yeah.
pools
Card
and
system,
and
yep.
not charging to rent every field if they want to go out and have a pickup soccer game and they can book field one during the summer. I'm saying let kids go play.
Okay.
I'll put it on the next
Yeah,
agenda.
On the
and
next,
part of
yes.
that might be some public availability, so someone could say, hey, are all the fields booked right now? Are they in play?
Right.
'Cause I don't want to drive down there.
it so that if you had 12 teenagers in June wanting to burn steam and they want to play a 6-on-6 game on field one and it's available from 1 to 3.
Exactly.
There's cameras out there on those fields?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, we need to move.
Okay, yes, we need to move forward and I appreciate all the conversation and our next topic.
And by the way, thank you very much to the pickleball group. This was a great presentation you put together. It really helped facilitate a good
Help move things
conversation.
along. Thank you.
Okay, all right, so I think let's make sure there were no other hands raised. Okay, so the next topic of conversation is the revised RFP updated resolution, including the updated timeline for the management company RFP. One of the things that we have, in the process of completing the RFP, the task force resolution needs to be updated to where we are currently. So all of the board members have seen the updated resolution, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we can make a motion to approve that, or we can probably need to make a motion
Let's
and
make
then
a
open it
motion,
for
second it, and then
discussion.
have
Yes.
discussion. I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
No, we gotta have discussion
Oh,
first.
sorry.
No one's in favor.
No.
Discussion.
I'm like moving right on here, sorry.
God.
Yeah, we
Talk about
have a
efficiency.
motion and we have, yes, let's not. We have a motion, we have a second. Now we are open for discussion to approve the RFP updated task force. Just a little background, we want to clarify the roles of the finance committee and the technology committee to also support the review of the thousands of pages of RFPs that we are going to receive from the 6 companies that have been selected. That is the point of this conversation and the updates. Any discussion, any questions, concerns?
Just a brief clarification of what you just said. I think the assignment to the finance committee and the technology committee are to look at the RFPs with respect to financial issues or technology issues,
Yes,
not everything else.
not everything else.
Okay,
yes.
just to
So-
clarify.
Yeah, so we've hit that wonderful point with approval on the 29th, where we said we wanted the board to take control of the process. And I think that has to happen. We've hit that point where we're starting to get emails from the community, and we will get many more emails from the communities. in this being drafted, it is clear how tight the timeframes are. The task force did a great job, but like at the RFP task force last night, we went through and divided up what could the task force do, what could finance do. For technology, we really focused them on hardware servers and some hardware server security type issues. But if we go with the dates here of June, there's only a 3 to 4 week period during vacation season and everything else when you can get that stuff back to the board. The board's got a couple of weeks to review probably 500 pages worth of stuff and look at the proposals back from the task force and the finance committee and the technology committee to do interviews in the second half of July and then be ready to start having discussions. So it's a very tight time frame.
It is. One clarification on the time frame. We said that on July 16th, and I'm looking at section 3G, that on Friday, the 16th, we would meet to discuss the proposed task force, the task force, finance, technology committees, and determine the RFP finalists to invited to participate in the on-site interviews. And then the interviews we have slated as July 19th through the 30th. I have
Too tight.
Yeah. So if we decide on Friday and we can't really schedule an on-site interview 3 days later, and tell them they need to come in for an on-site interview 3 days later. So I think we need to look at that. I'm open to suggestions on how we can modify that. I do think last night at the RFP task force meeting, there was some good proposals made as to who would handle what and how they divided up what to look at. So I think they've kind of moved a little bit ahead of us, ahead on the process already, even before this resolution, because that was their meeting time.
Well, I think the only way we can do this is to move Friday, July 2nd to earlier, say June 25th, a week earlier, or June 23rd. So
Back
we're
it up.
giving finance and the task force and technology very tight windows.
So that would mean that June 1st, we get the proposals from the companies. We
Right.
get their request we get their RFPs back. So you're suggesting that we take the July 2nd date that we're requiring, that we're asking for their analysis of our committees, finance, RFP, and technology. We would move that back to June 25th. I'm looking at a calendar.
Make it a week earlier.
Is that enough?
So, and welcome comments from the whole board, obviously. Do we just give people 3 weeks? The 8th, and I'm just looking at a calendar here. So if we said by the 22nd of June, we want the information back, because speaking for finance or having listened last night, you can beat the daylights out of these things for 6 weeks, 9 weeks, or 3 weeks. And at some point in time, you're still doing the best you could. So if we said the 22nd,
Then we
And then
could
the
vote on the
board-
25th.
well, I don't think we can vote on it. We need time to analyze the the stuff coming. So there's no way the board could be ready to vote on the 25th. If the board on the 2nd, but that's July 2nd, which will be July 4th weekend. I don't know if people are around or not. Then you could give people, whoever you're going to interview, 3 weeks notice or
So
something like
you're
that.
saying okay, so let me clarify. RFPs come in on first. We're going to ask the committees to provide us with their analysis by the 22nd.
And that would be the RFP task force, that would be the finance committee and the technology committee.
Right, the 3 committees. Then we are going to, on July 2nd, we're July 2nd, we're going to analyze them. And at that point, we're going to determine the finals.
Well, and
Is that
I'm
what you're
thinking out
saying?
loud here, during that 3 weeks, the board members can read them all. And I am assuming all 6 will respond, let's say 80 apiece, so 500 pages. And you'll have to read them 2 or 3 times. So it'll be work. Then when we get the finance and tech task force, or the RFP task force and the technology stuff, what we have asked, what I told the finance committee was wanted to get it down to 5, 6, 7 max pages with some financial numbers, some qualitative type things. The task force last night was clearly told, hey, 5, 6 pages, really, here's the meat and potato pros and cons, and technology, looking at security, I'm thinking 2 or 3 pages. The board will have to read that, and then to come into a conversation, that'll be a very busy month. The question is, do people think they can be ready or not?
If
So
I
you're-
may, just for an understanding, and I appreciate the finance committee and the technology committee being part of this. Have we considered, for not only my own understanding, but also for just the public, having the covenants committee or ARC or any other committees involved in this review?
The thought process was, and we did consider that, was the task force has got like Gary Hudspeth, who knows covenants and ARC well. That group can reach out, involve. We've invited the public to all their meetings now going forward, whether it's coming up with criteria and stuff like that. And the analysis meetings that will happen during that June period, the public and all those committees will also be invited. So there's not a desire to exclude anybody, and all the meetings that are public meetings, people will be invited to.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to see why these two specifically, which again, I support, do not, we don't have others specifically mentioned in the same fashion. So that's just more of an understanding, not that I agree or disagree one way or the other. I'm just trying to see that aspect.
Okay, so just to clarify, we are saying that on July 2nd, they're going to provide, the committees are providing their data on June 22nd. And then on July 2nd, we will review and make the decisions on who is going to be offered on-site interviews.
I think that's reasonable.
Well, what does other board members think? I mean, we still got Kevin's question there, which is a valid question.
So we're not at July 16th, where
No,
it
we're
says
saying
that.
that we're saying that if we want to give them interviews starting the 19th, we can't tell them on the 16th that they're going to have an interview on the
Right.
19th. So we need to push our dates back a little bit.
Right.
So let me ask a slightly different question, which is, get these things on June 1st. And we have 6 of them, let's assume. We're going to obviously give them to the committee members. I didn't think we were going to share them with the public as a whole. If you go broader for public feedback, be it covenants, be it recreation, special events, pick your committee, then these things get distributed broader and broader, and there's at that point no confidentiality. And that becomes.
We need to,
I balanced the quality of input versus we could have 900 cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And how do we as board operate? That becomes the question.
I guess, once the RFPs are submitted, the company is committed to those numbers. So whether, company A has offered something versus what company B, they're not going to change their offers or their proposals to us at that point. They're already set in stone, right? They've already submitted them. So if we offer them up to have open review of the community, I think that's very transparent. But is that the right timing to do it when we first receive them, before we had a chance to really review them? I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know if there's been we don't have Tom here to ask the question. But we usually ask, because Tom has been through this before with other companies on RFPs, how they did when they opened them up to the public. Guess we could ask that question of him.
Well, what do the board members think?
Comment from Gary Hudspeth.
Gary, go right ahead.
I just wanted to remind everyone, the last paragraph on the RFP asked specifically in terms of financial information from the management companies. It says offers shall mark all cost information as confidential. That offer would not want to be public at later dates under Florida Section 720. So if any of the offerers mark specific paragraphs or pages as confidential, we would have to eliminate that no matter when you release it to the public.
That is true. Thank you for reminding us of that.
So is it possible to go over this with Tom and discuss it at the April board meeting?
No.
No, you want to get it done today?
No, it's got to be decided.
Okay.
We got it. We have to
We're out of
decide the
time.
timeline.
Yeah.
And I don't think Tom may or may not have an opinion on how you do public release, but the whole time frame and everything
Okay.
we're down to.
Any comments on when we should release the information?
Or do we, or how do we want to release it? I mean,
I
Any-
think we have a good process. We've had an engaged community in building all of this and writing the scope of work. I think we're looking for the experts, particularly from these specialty areas. Finance and technology are really, really specialty areas. For us, technology is growing. The task force has been very actively involved, and we want their broad input. So I think we're fine as is, except with the exception of moving the timeline.
I
So
always-
fine is to not
Fine, just leaving this process as it is.
and not posting.
I think
the-
if we post it, I think that's very dangerous.
Mhm.
Because that means every company will see every other company's proposal, and those that get invited to do presentations will be, it's going to be a maneuvering and a shell game, and I don't think that's the way to go. I think they have put a proposal together, they put their numbers together, let that sit,
Let that stand on its own.
let that stand on its own.
what we had said on here in letter I was that between August 1st and August 24th, we would have board and community meetings regarding the RFP finalist.
Right.
So I had always thought that in those meetings, we would be whether we share the whole proposal or not, but if we have the task force, if we have the technology, and if we have the finance committee responses, we may very well share them and write them in a manner that they can be shared, because then the public's going to have the meat and potatoes.
Yeah, and
So
again, I
that's
don't
what-
think the whole proposals, I think.
Okay. All right, so,
The other thing I would want very clear in this, because it doesn't say it in terms of this two-page resolution. And whenever we discuss it, and then Brian did say it, but it's not here. We need to be reviewing it. So it's not just that on Friday, the 16th, whatever the date that we change it is, board meets to discuss the analysis provided by those three committees and their own analyses.
yes.
I mean, I just think we need to be very clear.
Can
We're not
we-
just relying on three committees.
Should we put a bullet point in here where, because we received the RFPs on June 1st. So do we want to make a statement in this resolution saying board members personally review the RFPs starting on June 1st?
Or just modify, analysis, let's see, whenever we have that discussion, just say to discuss their own analysis in
So
as well as the feedback from these three groups.
So on 3F, where we discussed that on the July 2nd date, analysis on the RFP proposals due to the CROA board from the following groups.
It'd really be the next item, item G. Board meeting to
meeting.
discuss the analysis provided by the groups in conjunction with their own board members' analyses. And I know you said it, I know that's implied, I know we're all going to do it.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of.
you think you want to add it to the resolution?
If you
do
want it
understand,
bullet
Steve.
pointed, I would definitely put in basically essentially the month of June. It is a thorough review by each CROA board member.
So it's actually, I think, Kevin, it's actually going to be from June 1st to the June 16th. Board members thoroughly review all proposals received.
Or June 22nd, you mean?
June
Whatever that
22nd.
is.
June
There,
22nd.
yeah, whatever
I'm sorry,
those.
yes,
dates
June
were.
22nd.
Yeah.
I'm
that's
I'm
that's
fine. I'm fine with it. It makes it
I
clear.
know
we
that
gotta do
it's
it.
implicit.
Every board, I had said it earlier, I think every board member, I mean, clearly, I'm
I
the
know.
finance point person, I'm on the RFP task force, I'll do it, but I mean, every board member is gonna have to read the darn things 3 times. You're gonna.
That's a lot of work.
You said 2 before. but
I said
agree.
3. You heard 2.
It's gonna
That's
be,
why I repeated it.
it's gonna be a lot of review just to make sure we know what they're actually stating.
And then the board has to put it all together.
Okay.
So I think adding in, the month of June.
Can I go back to Kevin's comment for a minute?
Mhm.
I'm thinking that if you broke up like we were talking about at the last finance committee, if you broke up, this is the finance committee's part, this is technology's part. I'm thinking that the task force is kind of heavy.
Well,
They have
no,
the
actually,
bulk of it, or did it kind of work
no,
out?
no, we went through it actually last night at the task force meeting. For example, something like insurance. I took insurance out of the task force and actually put it to the finance committee, because what we're really going to do is go to Lou Byron and have Lou Byron say, pro or con, let's go to the professional. In this case, it's a third party, he'll do the work. Finance and the numbers and that type of stuff we do. We really put the task force heavy on stuff like ARC, covenants,
Yeah.
you know, and task force is going to take the lead on stuff like, does the staffing make sense? You know, we have been consistent in our message. You heard it when we had our interview yesterday about this is a new statement of work. Don't assume that it's a business as usual proposal. We're telling everybody, inclusive, we've told CCMC, this is a new proposal. We want an RFP that really meets the service standards that we want to have for the next 5-10 years.
Yes,
So this
that's
is
right.
that one time to get it. So the task force has a big piece, but finance has a big piece. Technology, I'm going to talk with Jim and Tom Hull about what they're going to have. So I think it divides up pretty well. And I would encourage Gary and the task force to reach out to the different committees where they can get.
But you don't want to put that in here.
Okay, Gary knows it. I mean, we've
Okay.
told
I
them
don't
the
think
RFP
that-
task
I
force.
don't think that's needed.
This-
Yeah,
it's-
okay.
This is broad and specific, and I think
Okay.
it covers it. So I think
Okay.
there's two modifications.
Okay, you want to make,
No, so I'll make a motion to modify.
Actually, we got to recall the old motion. So,
we did have a
we-
motion.
so
Okay,
what we-
Oh, we
so,
did. You're-
yeah, so I'll
Okay.
recall
Then you
my
change-
motion
make-
and you recall your second.
I'll recall second.
Now
okay,
you can make a new motion, David.
all
Oh,
right.
God.
Thank you. Yes, we did have a motion in a second. So go ahead.
We're going to add an item, a new bullet item, which would be probably the new item F. Yeah, so it's just going to be the month of June. A CROA board reviews submitted proposals.
Okay,
Where's June 22nd going to go?
And so
We'll-
that's the
we'll get to
second
that
part
in
of
a
the
minute.
motion is that we change the date for the current item F to, is it Friday, June 22nd? Is that a Friday?
It is
Tuesday, I think.
wait 1 second. It is Tuesday, June 22nd.
Is it, so Tuesday,
Tuesday.
June 22nd?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that becomes Tuesday, June 22nd.
Yeah.
And so actually there's a third part to the motion.
Okay, so go ahead.
So then the board meeting which is currently item G, the board meeting is adjusted to, would that be the adjusted to Friday, July 2nd?
Well, let me ask, can everybody make Friday, July 2nd, who's on the board? Because that's
That's going to be.
4th
the
of July
date. That's-
weekend. I want to make sure we have the whole board.
I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin, does that date work for you?
At this time, it should. I should be able to make it work.
And the advantage of
Yes.
doing the second is that if we decided we needed a follow-up meeting because of some
Understand.
reason, then
Yeah.
we've got a little time for that.
Okay, so then the third part is changing item G. Rather than Friday, July 16, it's Friday, July 2.
Right.
Yes.
And then the interviews are the 19th to the 30th.
So everything else
That
remains.
gives
Then the
them
rest
two.
of it flows.
Okay,
So those would be three parts of my motion.
Okay.
Adding the month of
Clarify.
June, adding the month of June for board review, changing item F, which has a new numeration now,
Mhm.
to Tuesday, June 22, and
Yeah.
changing item G to Friday, July 2.
I have one more correction from Gary Hupkett.
Thank you, Gary.
Look at item 3C on page 1. May the 30th is on a Sunday, not a Friday.
Well, can we change the calendar? That's not in our power.
Okay, so we want it to be, say, May 28th,
Friday, May 28th.
What was that?
item
C.
3C
Oh.
says Friday, May
Thank you.
30th, and it should be Friday, May 28th.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
Good catch.
So David, just to clarify, so on E, you're going to just add some verbiage that says, for instance, RFP proposals are sent to CROA Board, RFP Task Force and Finance and Technology Committee
We're going
to
to,
begin analysis
I'm just adding a new item.
there's going to be.
So
a
that
new-
one doesn't change. Then there'll be a
Doesn't
new
change.
F. And then
There's
the
a
other
new
one.
Why
item
wouldn't
F.
you add it there? It's the same day. I mean,
We're
why
just going
wouldn't
to
you
put a
say-
whole new bullet point in.
To make it clear. So the next bullet will be CROA board reviews and submitted
Yeah.
proposals.
So it'll be that, then that will be the new F, and then everything else, the dates will change. And we
So
will
the
get you
letter
an
will change.
updated, clean copy of this.
So that's the motion which needs a second with, there's
Okay.
4 parts.
Say it,
I'll
please say
second
it
it.
again.
So
Oh,
the,
well, Kevin seconded.
thank you, Kevin.
Okay, any questions on the changes that we made? That will finalize the resolution with these changes and we move forward. Okay. Again, I think Jackson is not on.
No, he's gone.
Okay, Kevin, we're going
Yes.
calling vote. Celia,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes,
Brian,
Yes.
David,
Yes,
Diana is a yes, so that passes.
Diana, if I may, it may be unpopular, but I think it's a motion that needs to be made. And it could die and that's fine, but I'd like to make a motion to offer the ARC and the Covenants Committees the same opportunity as Finance and Technology.
I don't think so. That's a lot of people getting involved.
I just look at those as the two required by Florida law to be part of every HOA. And that's the reason why I'm making that motion.
I understand.
Let me follow up with a question since Gary is on. Gary, what do you think on that? How would you have included not, or do you think there's value in that? I mean, there's value in the suggestion. So how do you think about that, Gary?
The two committees would only be looking at a small part of the entire proposal, although important, guaranteed. It's mostly software-based for ARC and covenants. They might be best utilized if they were to hands-on participate in the demonstration of the software capabilities of each company's online platform.
So let me follow up on that a minute, Kevin, because what we discussed last night at the task force was actually having a software demonstration with the task force and heavily based around resident facing software and ARC and covenants related stuff. We could actually have a motion where we invite ARC and covenants to be part of that review of the software and the feasibility of those component pieces. And Gary would refresh my memory, but I think that review was going to happen in June anyway, wasn't it?
Yes. Gary?
Sorry, I was muted. I think it is June. Yes, I believe it was June. I have to check my notes.
Okay. I would be happy to have a motion where we invite ARC and covenants committees to share in the process with the RFP task force and the evaluation of the software and provisions around their business function.
Okay.
The more people who get involved and see things, the better buy-in we get as a whole. So I think it's a good idea.
Correct.
Are you going to second what I said then, Kevin?
Exactly.
Okay,
Okay,
so the motion is to include the ARC
ARC
and
and
the
covenants committees
in
to
this-
work with the RSP task force in the evaluation of the resident facing software and service sections related to their business.
We're going to offer them the ability to do
Yep.
that.
Any
we have
comment
a-
on that, Gary? Are you comfortable with the way that was worded?
Excuse me, yes, but I just checked. We were going, last night we discussed letting them know that we wanted the demonstration sometime in May, give them several weeks to prepare and then conduct that review in the June timeframe, yes.
Perfect. So I think the
Okay.
motion would work perfect for that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to include the ARC and covenants in the software review in coordination with the RFP committee in the month of June. The resident.
Yeah,
facing
so
software.
I think if we approve that motion, which we've got the other motion, then I think we have to insert that in his other resolution because we ought to state that we're doing that publicly because I think this new resolution has to go on the website and everything.
Okay, so we're
that's what
gonna,
I said.
You're good.
so we're going to include that in the
So
resolution
let's
of
see if we
which,
pass the motion
Okay.
first and then we would include it. in the
as a
resolution.
discussion on that, just a clarification, this does not mean distributing to those two committees the submitted RFPs.
No.
We're talking specifically about a review of the software that is coordinated by the task force. That's what I heard the motion say.
I think that's what you said.
That's
Is
what you
that your
said. Is that
intent?
what you intend?
They'll have seen the statement of work and the RFP anyway.
And the RFP, not the submissions.
Right.
I'm talking about the company's proposals.
Yeah.
Is there a part of the submission back, Gary, and you know this better than I do, that specifically relates to ARC and covenants that they should see? I don't want to restrict them from an answer specifically to the question that's going to help them evaluate software. That's what I'm trying to think through.
Well, in the RFP, subsection 3.4 is specific to deeds and covenants compliance.
Yep.
So that subsection is very specific.
You want to include
So,
access.
so in
to
other
service.
words, David, may not need to read all 500 pages, but the sections relevant to them, they should see, for sure.
And
That's fine. I'm
then
okay with
review
that.
software and relevant RFP submissions.
As determined by
The chair of the task force.
Chair of the task
RFP
force.
task force.
Chair of the RFP
Because
task
Gary will
force.
know the relevant pieces they
If
should
that's an
see to do a
acceptable-
good job.
If that's an acceptable modification, I think I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. We also have amended it to include that. Jackson, I don't think is on. Kevin, do you agree?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Celia,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes,
Brian,
Yes.
David,
Yes,
Diana. Okay, is a yes, so motion passes
which means that it also gets inserted.
into the resolution.
Yeah, so then the new motion will be that last motion has to get inserted to the resolution, so it's clear to the residents that we're having this happen.
Would that be under item, as an addendum and a bullet under item F? Old item F?
Well, or does it become like a new G? So
That's fine,
our
that's fine.
New letter.
I think it
meeting
needs to
that,
be a new bullet.
I think we
New
should
bullet.
have it like a
Yeah.
new bullet, like a new G after
That's
the
fine.
new F.
Fine. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I'll second it. Well, Diana
Let
seconds.
the president decide.
I'll second it. Kevin,
Yes,
we're adding it to the RFP. Celia,
Yes.
Cindy,
yes.
Brian.
Yep.
David.
Yes.
Diana's a yes, that one passes. Okay.
And who's going to update this?
I will take a stab at it and I will pass it around, make sure everyone's agreeable to it. So we know that it's corrected. Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is the use of, we have allowed the use of the foundation signing and lights in support of our medical professionals and working people throughout the pandemic. So we have pushed that down the line to make a decision as whether we will continue to allow those which are currently in exception to our covenants process.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The heart signs that the foundation put out,
Oh,
the
mhm.
yard signs,
Mhm.
and then we also allowed residents to put up lights. Those of them use like a Christmas light in support of our medical professionals working through the pandemic.
Okay,
So the covenants committee has been told to allow them to do that at this point, and now we need to make a decision whether we continue that or whether we end that and ask covenants to enforce the covenant that says that those signs cannot be in their yard or on their home. Just as a side point to that, CROA actually had an approval for the Presbyterian Church to have their lights up, which was ended, and those lights have now come down. And I think their proposal went right, I think their approval went through the day after Easter.
yes.
So that is no longer an exception from the CROA point of view, which was also lighting to support people through the pandemic. So I would make a motion that we, at this point, go ahead and go back and enforce the covenants rules regarding signing and lights. And which would mean that those signs, it would be time for those signs to come down. Do I have a second? Does anyone have any comments?
Second for conversation.
Second for conversation.
So
Okay,
I have a couple of questions. One is, what would be the effective date?
Yeah.
Second is with respect to the signage. And it is the following. I do not know, and I think it would need to be explored, any sensitivity with respect to the foundation, since this was their initiative with our endorsement, that would be put up, that they would put up. I just want to make sure that there's no sensitivity, because to me, the relationship with the foundation is vitally important. So
who
if this, if
is
it,
our liaison?
I am just have an appropriate date. It might be Memorial Day.
But I think we should discuss it with them
Okay.
and get
So
get a
pending
temperature
they're
check.
okay.
But-
So if we can,
I do know they know the signs are getting tired, and it was
no,
tired meeting, sun, you know, where it's, and
Yeah.
everything, so.
And they weren't meant
I
to stay
agree
up
with we
for.
should communicate with them, but I wouldn't make the motion pending they're okay.
Guys, I apologize. You guys seem to have cut out. It may have been on my end or your end or what have you. So if I say anything that was repeated, I apologize.
Go ahead.
I agree that I think it may be time. This sounds very crazy out there, predictions and all that stuff, but every trend is actually showing the end of May to be almost like a more official, like the decline in the pandemic is you know, disappearing, whatever words you want to call it. Do we go ahead and look at perhaps a June 1st type of a date? Let the foundation go ahead and do what they did in the past, which was, you know, they put them at the schools to kind of collect them. I think Kathleen did that very wise and kept that sensitivity, you know, in place with that. I think at that point it's over a year. I agree the signs are getting tired, but we have to, this is one step back towards normal. So, I mean, I support it, but I think we need to give appropriate notice and allow the foundation to go ahead and publish their communications to go ahead and go back.
I would amend, Kevin, I would amend my motion to a June 1st effective date.
Maybe we can suggest that, like they did in August with back to school in the high school, in the hospital, maybe we can suggest that any residents that still have the signs, being that May is Memorial Day, bring them to Founder's Park in honor of the veterans, show, you know, your support with your sign for the veterans, and then have them collected, because June 1st will be right around the corner.
And they
Just
could be
to-
up for the Memorial Day,
Yeah,
and then we could take, then they could be removed. and
that
then
might be
we could
really
put them-
nice to show the veterans love.
I would agree with that. Any
That's a
comments
nice
regarding
idea.
that?
And then David's got time to talk to them.
Yeah.
yeah, I'll talk with them.
Okay, and that would also apply to the lights
light.
as well, because some people were putting lights up,
Right.
not just the signs. I think
Yeah,
those were
yeah.
the two exceptions that we made, but the lights wouldn't go to Founder's Park. Okay. Any other discussion on
So
that?
the only other discussion is I will support the motion. I will talk with foundation leaders on this. And I will come back to this board if there's major pushback so that we could
Reevaluate.
rescind our motion or reevaluate our motion.
Okay.
So, but I will support the motion. I'm not going to make it contingent upon, but
Mhm.
but if there's major concern, I'll come back. to the
You'll let
board.
us, you'll
I'll
let
come
us
back to the
know.
board.
Okay. Any other discussion?
But I really like Celia's.
Thank you.
That's a great,
Yeah.
and they may have some other idea.
Right.
It might be high school graduations.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know.
Good one.
But some great idea.
Okay. All right. I'm going to call the vote with that in mind. Kevin,
Yes.
Celia,
Yes,
Cindy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yeah.
David?
Yes.
Diana, yes. Okay. Thank you for that. As we move forward, and the next is an update on Springlike Gardens that we have committed to our residents under the new contract that we will continue to monitor it on a monthly basis. So what is our current update?
Tim Prescott?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes.
All right. So our last walk on April 1st was phase one with some members of the committee, Brian Causey from Exquisite and management. You know, they're upkeeping on the pruning. That all is looking good. We had noticed some browning in the turf due to lack of rain. Irrigation does not control over the water. It supplements the rainwater. So we're just lacking rain. So that's why we're seeing a lot more brown spots. Exquisite had 3-minute timers on turf areas, and now they're going up. They're doing their inspections this week, so they will be adding time to 6 minutes per zone for sod areas. So we should be seeing more green coming up soon. And they will be mulching starting this next week, so we should see some some landscape bed weeds on the decline as well. In phase one, we started seeing a little bit more compared to previous week walks.
Okay. So looking at the visual that you've put up, that everything is either maintained, looks like everything is maintained except weeds and landscape beds actually went down to an unsatisfactory review by the residents.
That's the committee's card right
Yeah,
there.
the committee, the committee scorecard that is posted.
Yep.
Okay, so we still remain at a 2, which is showing improvement
Yep.
based
Yep.
on the committee.
And then also I had Mr. Silva from the committee. He made a suggestion, instead of using a 1 through 3 scoring, we use a 1 through 5 just to be able to show better progress or lack thereof. So that's just what he's suggesting.
I would think whatever, but I do think the 1 through 5 would be a little more descriptive and give us a little
Exactly.
more room to see. I would personally like that, but that would be up to the committee as to how they review it. We
Mhm.
appreciate their time that they're putting into this.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and then do we have anyone from Springlike Gardens Committee on the call today? I'm not hearing anyone. Okay, so I appreciate your time. Anything else that we need to know?
Not that I can think of, unless Susanna's got something that I've forgotten about.
Any questions from the board?
Nice to
Susanna's
see
shaking
the
her head.
progress.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And we are living up to the commitment to the residents that we made on following up with this contract. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. Okay, it is now 10:40 a.m. And we have 20 minutes left to discuss a very important topic, which is communications, which I feel, I'll take the temperature of the board and see, does anyone else feel like 20 minutes is enough to discuss this topic?
Absolutely.
Far from.
Absolutely or absolutely not?
No.
Oh,
I mean,
heavens no.
yeah, I was disappointed at all this other stuff, but I
Yeah,
realized that's
and-
more important, but I would like to see, like we were initially gonna have, a whole workshop devoted just to this.
Well, are there any residents on the call that they specifically thought today's workshop was going to be on communication? Are there any residents
I'm
on
loo-
the call?
I'm looking for hands raised. And
I don't see any hands at all.
I don't see any. Thanks for helping me monitor that.
I see Joseph.
Joseph, okay. Joseph. Yes, Joseph, can you go ahead and unmute yourself? Yes, Joseph.
Oh, I thought you were just asking for hands as to people who thought you were going to be discussing communications today.
We
Okay.
were.
Okay, yeah, I was expecting some communication discussion, but if there's not enough time, it could be rescheduled to a later time.
Okay.
I'd
thank you.
rather it be discussed thoroughly than just quickly and oversight to be brought back later.
I think the board
agree.
completely agrees with you, and thank you for making that comment. Do I have a motion to move this topic to a future workshop?
I'll make that. motion.
Cindy, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Celia, I'm going to just say all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I'm an aye as well. I apologize for those who were on the call thinking that we would spend a lot of time on this. We do have a lot on our plates, but I don't want to skimp on the communication topic. The next topic is, we do need to move on and look at future meetings. We tried to limit the amount of workshops to 1 per month. And I know we have a lot on our plate for future topics. And we've just now pushed a major topic into a future workshop. And we have some other things already on the agenda for that next workshop as well. Conversation about scheduling workshops. Anyone else agree that we need to add an additional workshop?
Mhm.
Wait, so the
I
next scheduled
agree.
workshop isn't until Friday, May 21st?
That,
Oh,
Yes.
Definitely. we need
If,
to-
if we don't have more workshops, we're going to have poorer and poorer communication. Because we end up then forcing emails, text, or side conversations, which is not the right answer.
I would suggest I mean, we discussed this just last month when the new board was seated. And we said, hey, let's go ahead and let's do 1 meeting, 1 workshop as once before. I was not in complete agreement with that, but I said, hey, let's go ahead and see how it goes. And a month later, we're back in that conversation. So I think that we should,
I would like
kind
to
of-
see this scheduled before that. I mean, because
okay, hold on just a second.
I'm
Kevin,
sorry.
we lost you, and I think, are you back now, Kevin?
yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. No, I was mentioning that we talked about this when the new board was seated, and it was, let's go ahead and try 1 workshop and 1 meeting. Here we are just a month later, and we are now kind of backtracking. And I think, we will quickly fall behind just from experience if we do not do that. I think it's favorable to go ahead and have the workshops hard scheduled. If we need to remove them, great. It just makes things, I think, easier for all. And then I mentioned this to Diana, that it's almost as if we're having an executive session once a month. And of course, they're not always able to be pushed back, and they can be time sensitive, but it may not be a bad thing to also have a date kind of floated each month to expect, hey, if we need an executive session, let's aim for that date as well. Just with everything going on between service areas, between Island Village and Mattamy and so on and so forth, it could be favorable to have those dates as well as we're discussing this. So, I mean, I would really like to see 2 workshops minimum.
I 100% agree with Kevin that I think we need 2 workshops a month. If we need to cancel one or hold shorter meetings, great. I like the idea of an executive session because everybody's going to learn in the not too distant future that we're going to need to have an executive session or 2 in the next couple of weeks in relation to a topic with
that we've already had an executive session.
ongoing legal action where there was stuff happened earlier this week. So we need to get some stuff on the calendar.
Okay.
So just as a counterpoint of view, I believe that we have to be very careful with overcommitting. We're going to have a very busy June and July and August. It's just going to be overwhelming with group meetings as well as individual sessions with candidates coming. I think we have to lower some of our expectations. We just can't do it all, or we're just going to burn ourselves out, and then we're going to be ineffective. So I'm just, I would still stay with 1 a month, but we're going to always have those executive sessions that get added on.
Let me take what you said and take it a step further.
Sure.
I think in the month of April and May, before we have the RFPs in hand, if we can catch up on some of these items that we've pushed down, let's hit those in April and May, and then maybe only schedule 1 workshop in June and July, knowing that we've got the RFP commitments.
Well,
Would that be
and
acceptable?
August, because in August, I think we're going to have public meetings as
We-
was laid out
and
in our
August.
resolution.
Yeah.
So we
Yes.
may not be having workshops in July
Yes,
and August.
I would agree that
So
we
so
may
we
not
may
even
just
do.
have to, and if we go back 3 years, 4 years, we had maybe 9 workshops a year, not even 1 a month.
Wow.
So
Yeah, but I mean, we can go back and forth and discuss how, how different boards operated and the successes of each ones. And I do really believe for our public, for the community, it is very critical for the community to hear these conversations publicly. I mean, back then workshops weren't even recorded, so it's definitely, I appreciate the improvements that have happened over time, but I believe communication is critical. And the fact that we can't even have a workshop on communication because we don't have time gives us the answer, and we know what the solution is. We have to. I don't think it's a choice.
All right. I agree. I think in transparency, we need to get, if we can agree that we can, let's look at the April calendar. Let's do that right now. So right now,
with an exception,
go ahead.
we have 1 topic on the workshop. 1, no add-ons.
Sit.
The topic is communication.
Yep,
No
Yep.
add-ons,
and that's the next.
no
meeting,
slippage,
Sooner rather than later.
no slippage.
So that would, I agree, because I
So,
think
I mean,
it's,
sorry,
no,
No, I agree.
I agree 100%.
Okay, so let's look at April. We have, looking at the schedule, we have an APC meeting on the 19th that we are trying to finalize, and that is tentative now, but it looks like it could happen. So we could do a workshop on the 23rd. We have a board meeting on the 28th. That would get us 2 workshops and a board meeting, and then we need to schedule an executive session probably next week. So we'll have to coordinate that, but we will have an executive session scheduled next week. And the workshop on the 23rd is communications only.
Sounds perfect.
Okay, which we would have to be done by that time.
10:30, it'd be 9 to 10:30.
Yeah, so that would,
There's something going on the 28th, I believe.
the board meeting,
There's a tour
Yep.
informal.
there is, yeah,
For
yeah, that would be
Oh,
during,
that's
well, the
okay.
board
Never
meeting
mind,
will
it's
be
up.
at night and the tour will
That's
be during the day. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we need to kind of, we're gonna meet with Susanna and Neil. Maybe we need to get everything on one calendar. Okay. Executive session will be this coming week. Okay, so that would be the 19th is the APC meeting, as long as that gets confirmed. The 23rd will be communications workshop. The 28th will be board meeting. And we also have tours starting on the 22nd, I think is the first tour for the companies coming in for the RFP. And I think there's one on the 28th, as we just said.
So we're looking at the 23rd,
I am looking at the
start at the
23rd.
9, start at 9?
9 to 10:30.
Yeah, because I have to be somewhere at 11.
It's gonna have to
Yeah,
be,
I
I
have to
have
be
a
somewhere at
meeting.
11.
I have to be somewhere at 11 as well.
I'll be on a plane going to New York.
So Celia won't be here. Okay. Do we have, will that schedule work for everyone,
Yes.
other than the ones who just said, okay?
Does it work for everybody except Celia?
I'll be there.
Yes.
When did you
Okay,
say
we-
the executive committee was?
We don't know. It's gonna be
Oh,
sometime in
okay.
the next week. We
Okay.
haven't been able to coordinate the date
No
yet.
worries.
We're still waiting for some additional data that I need to review, that we need to review and have available at the meeting. Okay, let's look at May. Because if we can get 2 months hammered out in May. So we have a workshop already scheduled for the 21st. When is the board meeting in May?
26th.
The 26th? So if we could have another workshop on the 7th,
There's
where
a
we have
tour that
We have
day.
a group in town.
we have a group tour, so no. What about the 14th?
14th won't work for me. I know you can do it without me, but it won't work for me.
Any others, 14th?
I'm good on 14.
Do the
Yeah, the
workshops
14th.
are they only on Fridays?
I can't
do a
attend
different day
I
if
can't
needed.
attend Monday through Thursday during the
Okay.
day. That would be I couldn't be here.
Oh, I was
but
just
if Brian could
wondering.
Be here, or one of the other officers, that you can have a workshop without me. Okay, so the month of May, we'll have a workshop on the 14th, right?
14th.
Sorry, I didn't. A workshop on the 21st and a board meeting on the 26th, along with all the other tours that are going on for the RFPs. So that gets us through April and May. I think we can look at this at the next meeting to do June and July, but again, I think workshops are going to be few and far between for June, July, and August.
So we have workshops 2 weeks in a row.
We do.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there
so
any
the-
way we can have the workshop in April on the 16th for the communication?
On the 16th?
That would be next
That'd
week.
be next Friday.
I'm sorry.
No?
I really
No,
wanted
it's
to.
fine.
And I can understand because her whole thing in running was communication.
It is,
key,
yeah.
So she,
I was just trying to do every other week.
I think every other week. Are you missing that one on the 20th?
Yeah. she's
Yeah, I'll
not
be on a
If she wants to
plane.
Be here, you can do the 16th. I won't be here on the 16th, but I don't care. I don't mean that the way that sounded.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
I can miss it.
Okay.
Because we have 2 workshops back to back in May, so.
Okay, so the workshop would be the April 16th.
Does that
Right.
work for you, Kevin, the 16th?
Yeah, that'd be excellent.
Okay. All right, I would ask that that Susanna and Neil will coordinate this to get this sent out, to get invitations sent out to everyone. And
Thank you.
again, on the 16th, it is communications only. That makes an easy agenda for that to come out.
Since I won't be here, when you have that communication, will you at least add the RFP as a topic to talk about communication around it? Because I think that's an important part of our communication.
Okay.
I mean, maybe it'll
We'll
fit
have
naturally into the
communication.
other topics, but that's an important thing.
We can say communications and then the next agenda item,
Well,
communication around
I'm just saying
RFP.
communication
Yeah.
around the RFP, just make
Yeah.
sure you weave.
No, I
it
think we
into
need to
there.
make
That's
it
all
a
I care
specific
about.
bullet point because it does cross into things that we won't be discussing in general communication. Okay,
Actually, I had that in there.
Did you?
Because I
Okay.
had detailed notes about what these various agenda items are that I shared with the board. One of them I called special issues, and the first bullet under that was RFP process.
Then I'm happy.
okay,
Okay,
there
thank
you
you.
go.
Because
Yeah,
there's
it
going to be other special issues. I mean, that's different from emergency situations.
So we're going to be discussing at the next workshop for communications, the whole list of 5, where it says discuss communications. And you have and there's special issues under G. So can that be added to it? Is this what,
I had, no.
Yeah. This was
I had
just,
said a detailed outline
Right.
to the board,
We
so that
didn't-
is part of that.
yeah, we did not put
That's-
all the
that's-
bullet points on there.
Right.
We just
That was
amended
screw
it
up the
for the
agenda.
agenda. Yeah, it was too much for the agenda.
To me, it's trying to paint a bigger
Right.
picture of communications. You know, one, you know, between us, among us, with management, community,
Right.
the whole package.
Mhm.
Okay.
And there may be other, I mean, this was a draft just
Right.
from
Yeah,
my
this is- yeah.
head. So this is for our discussion. There may be other issues that are important for communication and efficiencies. And so we don't have, I think to Brian's point, about, what, 1,000 or 100 emails a day?
Yes.
Things are,
And
long.
as we get closer to August, it'll go from 100 to 1,000.
It's exploded.
It's-
since
yeah,
it's exploded.
we have had more emails, so, okay. All right. Thank you all for your time today. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So move. Oh,
Second?
no, Brian, I'll second.
Second, one of you second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a lovely weekend.
Take care.